All right, let's jump right in. We're going to take a text that's literally thousands of years old and show you how to use it as a practical playbook for one of the toughest things you can go through, career uncertainty. We're not talking about anything mystical here, just a solid, actionable guide for getting back on your feet.
Look, if you're watching this, you probably know exactly what this feels like. That sudden shock, the pit in your stomach, your mind just spiraling with a million questions. Why me? What am I going to do now? It's completely paralyzing, and it feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. You are definitely not alone in feeling this way, and this is really the core idea for our whole conversation today. Believe it or not, your modern-day career crisis is a perfect mirror of an ancient one. A great warrior named Arjuna, standing on a battlefield, completely froze. He was overwhelmed, stuck, and didn't know what to do. The whole Bhagavad Gita starts from that exact same place of confusion and dread that you might be feeling right now.
Now let's get one thing straight. This is not about some vague comfort telling you, oh, everything happens for a reason. The Gita doesn't do cheap platitudes. It gives you something way more valuable, a set of real, practical principles for how to keep moving and stay steady even when it feels like your world is falling apart.
So let's get right into the first principle. This one is all about where you choose to put your energy. It's about grabbing the steering wheel on the things you can actually, control.
This one line, it's kind of revolutionary when you think about it. It's not saying results don't matter. Of course you need a job. But what it is saying is that obsessing over the outcome, the thing you can't actually control, is just a massive waste of energy. You can't control a company's hiring freeze, right? Or if the person interviewing you is just having a bad day. But what you can control is how well you prepare, who you reach out to, and the effort you put in.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Well, you can create something called a karma quota. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful mental shift. Instead of ending your day feeling down because you didn't get any callbacks, you measure your success by the number of quality actions you took. It's a total game changer for your anxiety levels, I promise.
And this is exactly how you put it into action. First, you decide on your inputs, the stuff you can actually do. Maybe it's sending 2 really well-researched applications and 1 networking message. Step 2, you only track those things. And step 3, this is the most important part. You celebrate the fact that you showed up and did the work. The win isn't the callback, the win is your consistency. And hey, this isn't just some nice theory. Gandhi himself used this exact idea, focusing on disciplined daily action without being attached to when the result would come, to navigate one of the most difficult political movements in all of history. So yeah, this strategy has been pressure tested. All right, let's move on to the second big idea, because it builds right on top of the first. It's not just enough to control your actions. You also have to train your mind to handle the emotional side of things. Equanimity. It sounds complicated, but it doesn't mean you have to become some emotionless robot. It doesn't mean a rejection email won't sting. Of course it will. It just means you build up the ability to feel that sting without letting it knock you completely off course. It's about acting from your center, no matter what the emotional weather is like. Modern psychology actually has a great term for this: emotional anti-fragility. And the key thing to see here is that this is a trainable skill. It's not just a mood or a personality trait you're born with. Think about it. A surgeon feels immense pressure, but they've trained to perform flawlessly anyway. Your job search requires that exact same kind of mental training. And the power of this kind of mental framework, it's just staggering. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the guy who led the project to create the atomic bomb, turned to the Gita to find perspective while dealing with one of the heaviest moral burdens imaginable. It's a tool for when the stakes are as high as they get. So here's the bottom line. You have to feel the feelings, but you can't let them drive the car. You can feel that panic about the bills piling up and still send out that next application. The goal is to acknowledge the stuff on the left, the panic, the fear, but to choose the action on the right, the one that's in line with your goals.
So how do you actually do that in real life? You ground yourself with a few non-negotiables. These are the things you do no matter what, no matter how you're feeling. They become your anchors in the storm. The emotions can be the chaotic weather, but your commitments, those are the solid road you're driving on.
Which brings us to our third big principle. This is all about taking back your power and stepping into a new role, a role you probably didn't even ask for.
That's a pretty powerful call to action, right? When you lose your job, your own mind can either be your harshest critic or your biggest cheerleader. The Gita is crystal clear on this. The power to lift yourself up is inside you. It's your choice.
Let's be real for a second. When you lose a job, you lose more than just a paycheck. You lose your boss, your deadlines, your daily routine. That entire external structure just vanishes. And in that moment, whether you like it or not, you just got promoted. You are now the CEO of You Incorporated.
So your very first task as the new CEO is to create a new structure. This isn't about just being busy for the sake of it. It's about building momentum. Set aside time every single day to get better at what you do. Ship something small, finish a tiny part of a project, write up a case study. And sharing an insight isn't for getting likes. It's a signal to the world and, more importantly, to yourself that you are still moving forward.
And finally, let's touch on identity. This might be the deepest, most powerful shift the Gita offers. It uses this really timeless, poetic language to make a very practical point. You have to anchor your sense of self to something that can't be taken away in a layoff.
You are not your job title. You are not senior manager at whatever company. That was just a role you were playing. Your real identity is the value you create. It's your ability to solve tricky problems, to communicate complex ideas, to bring people together. When you start operating from that identity, you approach everything, networking, interviews, from a place of genuine strength, not desperation.
Okay, so we've walked through the big ideas. Now let's get super practical. Let's turn all this into a simple 10-day plan to help you reset and start reclaiming that sense of control. Here's the roadmap. The first couple of days are just about accepting the situation and making a basic plan. Days 3 and 4, you define your non-negotiables, your dharma and your karma quota. Then you do a 3-day sprint to sharpen a key skill. Days 8 and 9, you start networking, but with that sense of detachment from the outcome. And on the last day, you just take a breath, recenter, and then take the next right action. It's a clear path through the fog.
And I want you to really let this sink in, especially if you're in that tough spot right now. You are not failing. You're not behind. This difficult moment, this is the starting line. The whole story of the Gita begins with Arjuna at his absolute lowest point, because that is exactly where real growth and transformation have to begin.
And really, that's what it all boils down to. That's the question this ancient wisdom is asking you, right here and right now. It's not about having the next 5 years all mapped out. It's much simpler. It's about finding the clarity and the courage to figure out your next right action. So, what is it?